Welcome to the Mind Vine podcast, where we challenge the stigma associated with mental illness through conversations about a variety of issues impacting mental health. Here we bring you news, views, and interviews that intrigue, educate, and celebrate recovery. Leading us on this journey are the hosts of the Mind Vine podcast, Darryl Mathers and Chris Bovie.
Welcome to the Mind Vine podcast. My name is Darryl Mathers, and I'm with my co-host as usual, Chris Bovie. Chris, how are you?
Good, Darryl. I'm in the office today, finding a little spot to do the podcast. How you been?
I've been searching all morning for a spot to do the podcast, and I just came across this place about 5 minutes ago. Like a lot of people during the pandemic, there's 5 of us trying to do Zoom calls in one house at the same time. And today it seems like everybody got a spot of the house at the same time. So I get last pick when it comes to ideal work.
Yeah, that's it's a good spot, and hopefully you get a good half an hour of respite from.
Yes. Yeah, I do get priority for this podcast. This is the only time of the day I get priority, but and it's probably because we're doing BellLetsTalk, because actually my daughter was talking about it this morning about how on January 28th on BellLetsTalk Day, it'll be a focus at school. Their teachers are already talking about like programming and curriculum that they're going to be discussing, and that's where we're here today. It's our BellLetsTalk Day podcast, where on BellLetsTalk Day, I think it's been a number of years now, where Bell donates 5 cents for every applicable text, call, tweet, TikTok video. I know you're a big TikTok guy.
Big on TikTok right now. Yeah.
And using the hashtag BellLetsTalk, and I mean, it's been incredible to see its growth. I remember, even before coming to Ontario Shores, when Bell decided to take up mental health as their cause of choice, how excited we were collectively in the sector, because before Bell came on board, nobody in the corporate sector really wanted to touch mental health. Well, they weren't anyways. They weren't associating themselves with the issue at all.
Yeah, it's more than ever with the pandemic and everything going on. It's important that we talk about this. It's obviously exacerbating people's struggles with anxiety and depression and things that are going on. And really excited about today's topic related to our relationship with Durham Regional Police. So a really great topic today to welcome in BellLetsTalk Day. And
without any further ado, we'll get right on to that subject matter. So, as mentioned, it's BellLetsTalk Day. It's our podcast, and in honor of BellLetsTalk, we have a new initiative rolling out with the Durham Regional Police, and we're going to talk about how this project is supporting officers and their mental health with 2 people. One is a familiar face on Ontario Shores, Dr. Krystle Martin, a research scientist. Welcome, Krystle.
Thank you. Nice to be here with you guys.
Great to have you. And from Durham Regional Police, Staff Sergeant Rob Williamson.
Hello.
Welcome.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's great. We got everybody working. We got everybody unmuted. The screen's working. We're winning. We're winning already.
We're in cruise control.
Yeah. So, Krystle, maybe I'll start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about this project that's being rolled out on BellLetsTalk Day involving our partners in policing?
Sure, no problem. So I think it was several years ago that Ontario Shores and Durham Regional Police had looked to more formalize our relationship, and we signed this memorandum of understanding. And one of the things that we'd identified that was important was for us being an expert in mental health, how we can extend that expertise to them and their members. And, we went from there to talk about specifically what this could look like. And one of them was this idea around establishing a mental health resource in the form of an app. And so also at the time, we were really lucky to access a Ministry of Labor grant through their Occupational Health, Safety, and Prevention Innovation Program. So together we applied for this, and we successfully received this money to build an app that would really look at promoting workplace wellness for all of their members within the service. Also within the idea that perhaps this could be scaled up and shared across other sectors within the Ministry of Labor. And again, with this idea of having a proactive focus on mental health. So we started with this idea of having an app and kind of went from there.
So, Krystle, when you worked on this, and you've worked with policing on a lot of different initiatives, there's a lot of apps out there. What was unique as you started to sort of research and understand what this app needed that maybe no other apps don't need related to the culture of policing?
Well, that's exactly it. We know that there's lots of information out there. There's also lots of apps that are designed to help people with their mental health, but we were really looking at this idea of what were the barriers for police specifically. We know that there are barriers for all folks to accept and reach out for mental health support, but we wanted to look at what were the specific barriers or those unique needs of police members. And so we did a baseline collection of data with DRPS staff to have this co-design element to look at what are those barriers and what would they want from a mental health resource specifically, so that we could essentially take what was out there, because there is lots of resources out there, and shrink it essentially to exactly what they were looking for. And basically that was to have police specific data, to have Durham Region specific information around resources, and to have information that they felt that was high quality and reliable, that they didn't have to sift through it themselves, that they could just count on that was good information.
From a policing perspective, Rob, I know you've been maybe not intimately involved with the development of the app, but certainly involved in wellness initiatives with DRPS. Why is this such an important issue right now for policing in Durham?
I think one of the biggest things is that it's the idea of defense. It's giving our people the tools basically right at their hands. So if they do need help, they can use their app, and people are very familiar with app, especially this new generation of police officers. And yeah.
So, Rob, I know you created the wellness program. I'm curious, are you seeing a shift in, keeping on the culture theme that, I think officers probably, mental health might have been seen as a sign of weakness, or how will my partner take it if I come forward? Are we seeing a shift in policing as far as willing to put their hand up and support among their peers?
Definitely there is a shift, and it is programs like the BellLetsTalk that really helps put it out there in the public. And people, officers are going home to their families. This is being spread not just in the police service, but in our families too, which is important.
I guess I'm wondering what are some of the, maybe it's for both of you, what are some of the unique challenges maybe in developing an app for this type of demographic, Krystle?
So, initially, I had no idea how hard it was to just build an app, period. App technology, or technology moves very quickly. So lots of things are changing. And the expertise around it initially was a bit of a struggle for us. And so we are really lucky that we partnered with the Faculty of Business and IT at Ontario Tech. And we had students there work with us and work with other DRPS staff to build the app. And so once I got that off my plate, that was very helpful, because actually the building part was a bit more tricky than I thought. The other part was really trying to get that end user perspective and having that input. And so we did spend a lot of time on co-design. Certainly, police staff were, they have concerns around privacy and confidentiality, as anyone would, but I think police staff are a bit more suspicious group of people. So we had to do a lot of work on establishing that trust and looking at the actual product itself to make sure that that was addressed in how we built the app and what kind of data would be included in creating that. But also that another challenge I found, and it may not be a police specific challenge, is that they were pretty good at articulating what they didn't want or what they didn't like. But I think sometimes people aren't always aware of what is helpful for them. What supports or specific information do they need? And so it did take a little bit of time to work with them to identify that, but also as a research scientist, leaning on the research as well as what do we already know that could be helpful for police staff.
Right. So what's the next step, Krystle, as this rolls out among officers and employees of DRPS? Is it to sort of constantly evaluate what they're using and tweak or research? Like, what is the, in the next year, what's your role, or what's the role as we roll this out?
So the plan is we'll be launching this week to, like you said, to sort of celebrate BellLetsTalk and mental health, and slowly roll this out across the divisions. Then over the next 6 months or so, our plan is to look at the usage of the app to see, are there parts of the app that people are accessing more, so around information, certain areas or different resources. And then also to do, again, reaching back out to members, specifically in focus groups, to see what did they think about it, what did they think about the content, getting their input again around ease of use, design, so evaluating that part of it. So that's our short-term plan. I think in the long term, we also want to look at, can we see the impacts of this? Are people reaching out more? I mean, this is not meant to solve sort of those mental health problems per se, but to bring out about awareness and have folks know where to reach out. And so do we see then increases of numbers of police staff reaching out, talking about it, accessing those resources, for example?
As we know, with any mental health issue, the earlier that you're diagnosed or the earlier that you identify something that you're struggling with or going down a road, the better the chances of recovery and maybe the easier road you might have in terms of recovery. In policing, it's really a complicated area, and I know you touched on a little bit about kind of the evolution of this generation of officers and their use of technology, but I wonder if you could talk, Rob, about the evolution of the kind of the environment in policing and in DRPS, and in creating the wellness program and I guess investing in mental health, and now this app. Has it been what kind of journey has it been in creating an environment where you can roll out an app like this? Like, I'm not sure that this would have been something you could have done 10 years ago, but now it's something that's welcome. So when you can talk about what the journey's been like.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my career in policing, it started in 2000, so actually in 99. And I came from a family of police officers. I was the fourth one. And it was definitely not easy to talk about mental health issues. Programs, again, like BellLetsTalk, people in the community like Krystle that are able to support us and talk vocally in the media through programs like this. It's really changed over the last 20 years. To the point where people are openly getting help, and we're talking about it, as guys in the platoon are actually able to talk about it and discuss it themselves too, right? Like, that's the biggest part, is being able to fix these problems yourselves. And with programs through Dr. Krystle Martin and the wellness program, we're able to bring that piece that's important to the platoon.
Krystle, I'll start with you. Maybe both of you can answer on this one. So since you binge watched our podcast, we've had a few hockey people on the podcast, and in that culture, it was kind of interesting that we talk about mental health. A lot of it was people said, well, related to an incident like fighting and stuff. So in policing, we talk a lot about operational stress injuries and that result in mental health. But I think sometimes we lose track that a hockey player or a police officer can have the same mental health challenges without an incident, right? Suffer the same anxiety and depression without something that had caused it. So I wonder if you could speak a little bit about, how do we show that, officers are just like anybody else in our community. They're like ourselves, they just have a different vocation, but they're subject to the same mental health challenges we all are.
Mm-hmm. I think, so to start that off, I do think that there is that misperception that the most prevalent mental health concern in police officers is PTSD. And while, for example, after a critical call, and obviously that is important, and it is something that they do face, unlike other occupations, it isn't the most prevalent mental health concern that they do struggle with. And, just like other folks, it is, things like depression or anxiety. And it's also organizational stressors that, again, we expect that police officers are struggling with, the calls that they go to, but it's also everyday things that I think other people can relate to. And certainly, Rob has just gone through in terms of like the promotional process and, organizational issues that are, that everyone faces at work. So those are also things that are important and that aren't always addressed by, programs designed for police staff. But, Rob and I have been working together at this divisional wellness program. And so, for example, our first talk that I delivered was about sleep. And again, so everyone, sleep is a pretty worldwide issue that people struggle with. And yes, officers and other staff at DRPS might have additional or unique challenges because of shift work, but it's something that we all, impacts us all, for example. So I don't know, Rob, if you wanted to add anything in about that.
Yeah, for me, it really goes back to that the defense and offense idea that we're providing people with the knowledge to help heal themselves or help talk about it with their peers. And those little talks that we have with the platoons, it helps generate ideas. Again, I know it's just the sleep was the one idea. That was one of the visits that she presented it on. And it's building that trust with the guys on the platoon, and we're able to openly talk about our issues and our problems.
Because even I came in just before the holidays to talk about how to deal with COVID during the holidays. That everyone has been faced with restrictions and limitations, and not being able to see our families, especially because officers and other staff at the service perhaps have a more exposure to potentially being around COVID, and how hard that is. Again, not necessarily a policing issue, but just the stresses of COVID and, managing holidays.
Can I just jump in? Because Rob, you mentioned trust, and I wanted to capture that because I know we do some work with Wounded Warriors on our first responder and stuff and programs. And we, what we hear is sort of culturally sensitive that, officers, if they go see a clinician or anyone to support them, they want that level of someone that may understand what they're going through and a level of trust. How important is the trust piece when an officer reaches out for support or help?
It's funny. When I was preparing for this podcast, it was the number one thing that I keep coming back to is trust. And it is definitely the number one most important thing to have with your coworkers as a manager. Too, I guess, is probably the higher level of the trust. But you gain that through showing that you care. And we do care, and it's just that we have to generate these ideas to portray to our people that we do care. And from that, we get the value of trust, which, people then can come to me when they have problems. And that's the other part of this wellness program that we have with Krystle, is that she's a resource for me. So I've built this trust. People are able to talk to me. They know they can trust me with their problems, but then I don't know how to deal with it, right? So I'm not the professional. And it's that open dialogue that we have with Dr. Krystle Martin, where we can go to her, give her, the situation, and she can come up with ideas on how we can handle it. These are obviously, the smaller, lower level issues, but definitely having support from a professional is very important.
Like without getting into, political nature of policing, but as a civilian looking into the demands of policing, I would imagine this is what the scrutiny police are under these days. This has got to be a really difficult time. Or maybe a better question is, like, in your 20-year career, like the evolution of policing and the stress that these men and women deal with on a daily basis. It's like, from my perspective, it seems like it's continuing to mount, this mounting pressure time and time again. Is that something that you feel and that we're, adjusting to still, this pressure, the immense pressure the police are under?
Yeah, definitely. It's a challenge every day that you go into work. We went through a bit of a time there a couple months ago where, the police were not liked by, well, that's how it was portrayed, right, on the media, that the police weren't liked by the community. But again, it's, we know Krystle would come in and talk to the platoon, and through her ideas and programs, we're able to, openly talk about it on the shift, and, resolve any issues that people were having or were thinking they were having. And yeah, it's definitely the way to handle these situations is as a group and talking about it. And the benefit is people understand that, that's just a small, blip in the community, and it will fix itself. And people, people's perception of the police has always been, well, I guess.
And I would imagine that, because it can be a very isolating position being a police officer. I would imagine, the best people to talk to are fellow police officers.
No, for sure. Yes. Yeah.
So, Krystle, I'm going to put on my clairvoyant hat. So I think as this rolls out, I'm going to be hearing from other police forces and first responder organizations, like, what is the app and how did you create it? Is there an opportunity or plan that, based on the success of this, to help other organizations take what you've learned here and bring similar things into their departments?
Yeah, so absolutely. Part of the grant that we received from the Ministry of Labor was to essentially share our lessons learned. And so our final product that we will be sharing with the ministry and others will be the journey that we have been on. Because like I said, it has been tricky, especially, at the beginning, developing the technology, figuring that part out, as I'm not technologically savvy at all. And sort of the process of how we did that, how we developed the content, working with the service itself to identify their needs and barriers, like I said. And so our product will be this lessons learned package that we can share. I think the idea with the Ministry of Labor is for them to use that. Lots of people are looking at either establishing or building their own app like we did, or adding in another app. So there's a few other services across Ontario that have onboarded other apps built otherwise. But there definitely is an interest. I had other folks reach out already, for sure, asking us whether or not this is something that they could be, scaled up. And, it is an app that hopefully will be freely available to other services that they can personalize for what they need. Again, the app itself isn't fancy. It's really just a tool to share information and to make sure that people are connected in that way. But that is definitely my hope, that people can learn from my blood, sweat, and tears of the last few years on this project, and that it can be extended beyond DRPS for sure.
Yeah, we're excited to see it's DRPSupport, that we're excited to see this app and the applications of it going forward. And definitely, as an organization that works closely with Durham Regional Police, we're excited about this opportunity to support officers and their employees in the front lines as well.
Hopefully it's just the beginning too. Like, whatever, you think about 10 years ago, I don't even know if I would have known how to use an app or if they existed. But hopefully, if we keep pushing the envelope from utilizing technology, accessing mental health, and creating those networks, that whatever the next thing is, we just transition upwards. That we keep on finding ways to be innovative in this space. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. We'll have was a pleasure talking about this. I think about as I mentioned earlier, the police force and some of the challenges that they have just in keeping us all safe and doing things that we don't want to do, to be perfectly honest. And I'm glad that we're able to provide this in partnership and tell our people, whoever's listening, I know there's lots, hopefully, that a little bit more about this. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.